This young man began a secret relationship with this old woman who had 2 children, without knowing the identity of her husband. He didn't know that her husband was a very dangerous assassin. As their romance becomes risky, hidden truths come out and disaster happens. Watch until the end to find out how much they will do to keep their love safe. In a calm county in the United States, Matt and Ruth lived a happy and peaceful life. They had a son named Frank who just finished college. After finishing school, Frank went back home to spend the summer with his family. He had a good and friendly relationship with his parents, and they were very close. But there was another person in Frank's life, Natalie. Natalie was an older woman who was divorced and had kids. She had her own problems, but Frank loved her. As Frank got ready to start his advanced studies in architecture, he felt confused. He always wanted to be an architect, but he also really wanted to be near Natalie. He wanted to live in the city, work as a fisherman, and create a life with her. Frank's parents thought differently. They wanted him to concentrate on his schoolwork and have a good career in architecture. But Frank couldn't stop thinking about Natalie. He loved her a lot, and he didn't know what to do about it. His parents encouraged him to chase his school goals, but Frank really wanted to do something else. Then, Richard, who is Natalie's ex-husband, comes into the picture. Even after they divorced, Richard still wanted to be with Natalie again. He was unhealthily fixated on her and would do anything to win her love, even if it meant getting aggressive. Richard had been getting more and more violent, and he even attacked Frank once. This just made things more tense at home. Ruth, Frank's mom, was very worried. She worried that her son's relationship with Natalie would harm his future. She shared her concerns with Matt, but he tried to comfort her by saying it was just a temporary situation. He thought Frank's feelings for Natalie wouldn't last and that he would get over them eventually. Even though his parents were worried, Frank was set on his goal. One night, Frank was beaten and bleeding. It was dark, so he didn't know who had hit him, but it was clear that it was Richard. He told Ruth that he wanted to tell the police about Richard, but Ruth said no. Frank kept asking, but neither Ruth nor Matt did anything. A few days later, things got bad. One night, Frank got a worried call from Natalie's kids. They were scared and needed his help. When Frank got to Natalie's house, he was shocked by what he saw. The living room was a big mess, really dirty, and Natalie was very sad. Frank hurried over to her and asked who did this. Crying, Natalie explained to him that Richard had come by. He had ruined everything. Frank wanted to call the police, but Natalie pleaded with him not to. She talked about how dangerous Richard was. She was worried about her children's safety and didn't want to make things worse. Even though she begged, Frank stood his ground. He said that they had to stop Richard, but Natalie was really scared. She didn't want to make things worse. Frank comforted her by telling her that everything would be okay. It was at this moment that they saw Richard coming angrily out of the car. Frank told her to quickly grab the children and hide. Natalie thought he was coming to take her children, so she took her children and hid. He came face to face with Richard. The man was very angry and had forced his way into the house. He walked right up to Frank, and before anyone could do anything, he took out a gun and shot Frank. This terrible incident changed Matt and Ruth's lives forever. Natalie couldn't believe what she saw and cried so hard. Their happy world was ruined. They both had a hard time dealing with the loss of their son in different ways. Matt tried to be tough while Ruth felt too sad to speak. Richard was taken to jail for killing Frank, but because he was rich and powerful, he was able to pay for bail and go free. His family had enough money to pay for his freedom, and Richard was let go. Now Matt and Ruth had to see him again, but there was nothing they could do about it. They had no power. After a few days, Matt and Ruth chose to take a break for the weekend. They went to a friend's cabin, hoping to relax. But things were not normal at all. Ruth felt very different. She couldn't talk to anyone. She was having a tough time, and it was obvious that being with others wasn't helping her. One Saturday, Matt told Ruth he was going to work, but instead, he went to a store. Natalie was working there, and when Matt came in, they began to chat. Soon, the conversation changed direction. Matt felt very emotional about Frank. His feelings were overwhelming, so he left quickly to avoid showing his hurt. To deal with his loss, Matt went fishing, but he felt confused and sad. While fishing, he accidentally cut his right index finger badly. This was just another sign of how hard things were for him. At the same time, Matt and Ruth both wanted fairness for Frank. They were set on making sure Richard faced consequences for his actions. They contacted their lawyer to get advice, hoping for a better solution. The lawyer said that since there are no witnesses who saw what happened, Richard could only be charged with accidentally causing someone's death, which could lead to a 5 to 10-year prison sentence. They wanted Richard to get the death penalty, but what the lawyer said was really disappointing. The conflict between Matt and Ruth got worse. Ruth felt even more sad. Matt couldn't pretend to be okay anymore and finally showed that he was feeling sad. That evening, he hung out with Willis, and they drank together while discussing the law. They both thought that the justice system didn't work properly. Matt thought that wealthy people could change the law to suit themselves, and that made him upset. Later, Natalie went to see Ruth. She was saying sorry, but Ruth didn't want to listen. Ruth wouldn't talk, but Natalie kept saying sorry a lot. In the end, Ruth got really mad and slapped her. Natalie walked away, crying. Just when Ruth thought her day couldn't get any worse, she accidentally bumped into Richard. He was at a store buying cigarettes. Seeing him out in the open like that made Ruth feel even more powerless. She couldn't handle seeing Richard living freely while Frank was away. All she wanted was for him to be in jail. When Ruth got home, she heard the news from Matt. The fight between them got intense. It was hard for everyone to watch as their anger and sadness came out. Matt and Ruth had a big fight. They both began to blame each other for letting Frank down. Matt was really angry. He said Ruth was to blame because she didn't pay enough attention to Frank when he was growing up. He thought she should have been nearer to him and should have talked to him more. If she had, maybe Frank would still be alive now. Ruth replied quickly. She told Matt that he didn't even cry for Frank's death. To him, it seemed like their son's death didn't mean anything. The argument got more intense, and both of them were hurting a lot and taking it out on each other. Suddenly, a little girl knocked on their door, stopping the fight. To lighten the mood, Matt bought a $10 chocolate bar from her. After that, he said sorry to Ruth for being mean. Buying the chocolate made a difference for both of them. Ruth also became gentler. She said she was sorry for how she acted, and for the first time in a while, they both felt a bit better about their sadness. Ruth felt more emotional when she talked to Matt. She admitted that earlier that day, she had seen not just Natalie but also Richard. The impact of those experiences was heavy on her, but in that moment, they found comfort in each other's presence. For the next few days, they looked after each other and tried to feel better from the hurt they had experienced. They helped one another through their sadness, gradually feeling less pain in their lives. But then Matt thought of an idea. It wasn't an easy choice, but he wanted to handle the problem. He decided to face Richard. One day, he pointed a gun at Richard and made him pay attention. Matt said he found a solution for the problems with his bail. Richard was not going to jail. Matt had different ideas. He told Richard that he would make sure he left the state so Richard would not be in their lives anymore. They wouldn't have to see him, and their hurt could finally get better. Matt told Richard to pack some warm clothes, and then he took him to a cabin far away. Willis was waiting in another car, ready to help with the next part of the plan. He started putting Richard's bags into his car, following the steps that Matt had showed us. Even with all the planning, Matt felt unsure. He couldn't shake off an uneasy feeling. At that moment, all of Matt's plans felt like they were fading away. Feeling overwhelmed with emotions, he couldn't keep it inside any longer. In a fit of anger, he took out a gun and shot Richard in the shoulder. Without thinking, he shot Richard in the back 2 more times. Just like that, Richard's life ended at Matt's hands. Willis, who was part of the plan, stood still, shocked by what he had just seen. This wasn't what they had talked about. Matt looked sorry and tried to explain. He said he couldn't wait anymore. He was really angry at Richard and couldn't control it. He lost control. After the shooting, they hurried to bury Richard's body in the woods behind the cabin. There was no way to go back now. After they were done, they began their trip home. But problems were waiting for them. They got stuck by a bridge, so they were an hour late. They originally planned to be back by 3 a.m., but now they will return at 4 a.m. That meant someone might have seen them. Willis got even angrier. He said Matt caused the delay. Matt said he was sorry, but there was no way to make things better. In the end, they made it home. Matt went directly to the sink under the stairs, cleaned the dirt off, and covered his clothes with an old blanket to hide what he did. After everything, he went to Ruth's bedroom. She was still awake, lying in bed. Ruth asked him softly, "Did you finish your work?" Matt felt really stressed and couldn't respond. He got into bed next to her, but he couldn't stop thinking. After some time, Ruth got up to make coffee. Matt rolled over in bed and took off the bandage from his finger, the finger that had pulled the trigger to shoot Richard. He looked at the cut on his finger, feeling heavy with what he had done. Ruth was in the kitchen making noise and asked him, "Do you want coffee?" But Matt couldn't answer. The movie ends here. Please, my family, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.